99% of guys heading into the field this season are making a massive mistake by carrying heavy gas-operated plastic shotguns. They think dropping $3 on a European over-under just buys them pretty walnut and a fancy engraving to show off at the lodge. And it costs them big time when that cheap autoloader jams up in the dirt or feels like swinging a cinder block on a fast-flushing bird. But here's the deal. The engineers overseas just completely rewrote the playbook for 2026, cracking the code on recoil reduction and aerospace-grade balance. I have the 7 absolute best European over-under shotguns that will actually put meat in your freezer. And the rig sitting at number 1 is going to make the traditionalists lose their minds. Kicking things off at number 7, we have the Chapuis Arma's RGP Classic. Most guys think of Italy or Germany when they want a high-end over-under, but the French are quietly building absolute tanks. Chapuis is famous for making massive double rifles that stop angry, dangerous game in its tracks. And they took that exact same heavy-duty DNA and stuffed it into a sleek bird gun. Under the hood, this rig features a highly unique U-bolt locking mechanism. Instead of your standard underlugs, 2 steel prongs push straight out of the breech face and lock directly into the ejectors when you close the action. This creates a solid bridge of steel from side to side, spreading the pressure out and giving you a lockup that feels like slamming a bank vault shut. It means you can run heavy, high-velocity field loads all season without shaking the barrels loose. Swinging this rig out in the brush is a serious experience. The trigger breaks like a dry icicle, snapping in half, and the recoil from the lightweight 28 gauge model feels like a slow, steady wave rather than a sharp punch to the shoulder. They wrap all this engineering in beautiful AAA grade Circassian walnut that looks like a piece of high-end custom furniture. But let's be real, there is a catch. The damage to your wallet starts around $5,400. And that is just for the base model, without the fancy artisan engraving. Plus, because it is a boutique European import, if you break a firing pin right before opening day, you're going to be waiting a very long time for parts to ship across the ocean. It is a gorgeous piece of machinery, but it demands a fat bank account and plenty of patience. Stepping up the game at number 6, we have the Blaser F16 Game. The Germans do not mess around when it comes to hyper-engineered tools, and this rig from Isny is pure, absolute utility. While their flagship models cost as much as a used truck, this field gun gives you that legendary Teutonic precision without completely ruining your life savings. Diving into the internals, this shotgun runs a trigger plate action instead of a standard box lock. That means the entire firing mechanism, including the sears and springs, is mounted directly to the bottom plate of the receiver. This design strips out a massive amount of vertical bulk, giving it the lowest profile action on the market. It sinks the axis of the barrels incredibly deep into your palm, putting the center of gravity dead on the hinge pin, so it swings with terrifying speed while totally eliminating muzzle jump. When you shoulder this rig and sling heavy 3-inch magnums down range, the recoil feels like a firm shove from a heavy bag. It feeds on 12-gauge shells all day long, and that trigger breaks crisp as stepping on thin ice right at 3.6 pounds. I know the old-school fanboys will hate this stripped-down look, so sound off below if you actually trust this bare-bones style over a fancy engraved wall hanger. But listen, here is the annoyance. Because they went with a stark gunmetal gray finish to keep it minimalist, this thing is an absolute magnet for oily fingerprints and field grime. If you just look at it wrong, it smudges, forcing you to constantly wipe it down out in the brush just to keep it looking decent. Taking this German machine out to the blind sets you back around $4,000. Now we get serious at number 5, the Benelli 828U Field Advanced Impact. Most guys run away from aluminum receivers on break-action shotguns because they eventually stretch and shoot loose under heavy pressure. Benelli totally solved this by engineering a patented free-floating steel locking system. A massive steel breech block drops down when you close the gun, locking directly into the back of the barrel monoblock. Every ounce of pressure from the blast is contained right inside that steel-to-steel vault. That means absolutely zero stress gets transferred to the hinge pins or the lightweight frame, giving you extreme durability in a package that weighs just 6.5 pounds. Because it is so incredibly light, swinging this rig on a fast-moving bird feels like pointing your own finger. When you are ready to send it, the striker-fired trigger breaks like a snapped guitar string. You would think slinging heavy 12-gauge shells out of a featherweight frame would absolutely punish your shoulder, but the progressive comfort system inside the stock completely tames the beast. The recoil rides your shoulder like a high-end shock absorber, letting you get back on target for the second shot instantly. But let's be real, here is the deal breaker. You have to pay a serious price in ergonomics for that unique striker-fired setup. Pushing the top lever actually cocks the internal strikers manually, which means the opening mechanism is ridiculously stiff. If you are reloading constantly on a hot upland drive, your thumb is going to be completely raw and aching by the time the sun goes down. This Italian tech is incredibly solid. But wait until you see the absolute monster sitting at number 1. It is going to blow your mind. Putting this futuristic rig in your safe sets you back right around $3,800. Pushing deeper into the high-end territory at number 4, we have the Guerini Revenant. Most guys think you need to drop $100,000 and fly to London to get a true heirloom quality bird gun, but the Italians just proved them completely wrong. This rig brings that elite English best aesthetic into the modern era using some serious high-tech manufacturing. Digging into the architecture, this shotgun runs a true round body action paired with a winged fore-end iron. Instead of standard flat box lock sides, the receiver is machined with continuous graceful curves that flow directly into the trigger guard, effectively stripping out a massive amount of unnecessary metal. That winged iron extends seamlessly into the wood, giving incredible structural strength to the hinge point while keeping the entire package impossibly light for those long hikes through upland country. Shouldering this rig feels like pointing a magic wand. When you press off, the trigger snaps like a fragile glass rod. And because it slings lightweight 28-gauge payloads downrange, the recoil is nothing but a polite tap against your shoulder. It eats 28-gauge shells effortlessly, dropping fast-flying upland birds with serious terminal performance. But listen, here is the real annoyance. You are paying a massive premium for that deep relief 3-dimensional laser engraving with gold inlays, which means you're going to be absolutely terrified to push through thick, thorny brush. It is so pretty that it practically forces you to baby the gun in the field, making it more of a safe queen than a gritty workhorse. The street price on this Italian masterpiece is roughly $18,900. Entering the elite tier at number 3, we have the Perazzi MR57. The Italians at Perazzi usually build pure Olympic metal crushers, but they just unleashed this absolute beast on the hunting world and rewrote the laws of physics. Looking under the hood, this rig abandons standard curves for a highly faceted angular receiver geometry. By meticulously redistributing the steel mass inside and outside the frame, they drastically lowered the center of gravity and pulled the balance point back toward your hands. This completely neutralizes rotational torque when the shell detonates, meaning the comb does not slam upward into your cheekbone. It eats heavy 12-gauge shells for breakfast, delivering massive terminal performance on driven game. The recoil feels like a gentle push from a heavy breeze, literally cutting felt kick by 50% without using any moving mechanical buffers. When you lock onto a bird, the bespoke trigger snaps crisp like a frozen carrot, resetting instantly for the second shot. But look, here is the annoyance. Because every single stock is carved strictly as a bespoke fit to your exact biometric measurements, this rig becomes completely useless to anyone else. If your buddy's gun goes down in the blind and he needs to borrow your backup, he is going to be staring at the sky or the dirt because the drop and cast will be totally warped for his body type. Stepping into this level of custom Italian hardware will completely drain your wallet. It is a pure precision instrument, but you pay heavily for that exclusivity. Closer to the crown at number 2, we have the Beretta 687 Silver Pigeon 3. The Italian giants have been building guns for half a millennium, and this rig is the absolute backbone of their hunting line. If you are hiking deep into the Utah backcountry chasing wild turkey, this is the exact workhorse you want, slung over your shoulder. Looking at the lockup, this shotgun uses bifurcated lumps and dual conical locking lugs that emerge from the breech face to bite directly into the middle of the barrel monoblock. Because they ditch the massive underlugs, the receiver sits incredibly low between your hands, lining up your master eye naturally with the rib. Those conical pins are actually self-adjusting, meaning as the gun wears down over tens of thousands of rounds, the pins just seat a fraction of a millimeter deeper to keep the action locked up like a bank vault. Under the hood, the barrels are cold hammer forged from their proprietary tri-alloy stellium. It features an Optima Bore HP extended forcing cone that gently funnels the shot column, preventing the pellets from deforming against the steel walls. This rig slings 12-gauge payloads downrange with devastating terminal performance. When you send it, the trigger breaks like snapping a dry pine cone, and the recoil feels like a dull thud against a heavy winter coat. But listen, here's the deal breaker. That bright coin-finished receiver is heavily engraved and looks like an absolute piece of art on the rack. But out in the woods, it acts like a signal mirror. If you are trying to stay concealed in the brush, the sun glare off that shiny silver metal will absolutely flare out wary birds before they even get into range. Grabbing this Italian classic for your collection runs right around $3,579 at the gun counter. Taking the absolute throne at number 1, we have the Browning Citori 825 Game Prestige. I know people love to argue about its Japanese factory and Belgian heritage, but this is the ultimate modern evolution of John Moses Browning's final masterpiece. It takes the crown because it gives you the rugged, lifelong reliability of the Beretta at number 2, but with a match-grade mechanical firing system that puts the Benelli at number 5 to absolute shame. Looking under the hood, the most critical upgrade here is the Firelight 2 mechanical trigger system. Most over-unders use an inertia-driven trigger, which actually relies on the physical recoil energy of your first shot to reset the internal sear for the second barrel. This Browning uses a purely mechanical linkage instead, meaning even if you get a bad primer and the first shell completely fails to fire, you can immediately pull the trigger again to send the second round downrange without having to manually slap the stock to reset it. Out in the field, the ballistics are completely undeniable. It eats 12-gauge shells effortlessly, utilizing a backboard barrel geometry that slightly increases the internal diameter of the tube to drastically reduce friction on the wad. When you unleash that heavy payload on a flushed bird, the recoil feels like a firm shove against a heavy oak door, keeping you perfectly balanced for a follow-up. Squeezing that new mechanical trigger snaps exactly like stepping on dry winter grass. giving you a lightning-fast break with absolutely zero over travel. Wrapping up this incredible package, they upgraded the furniture to grade 5 American walnut finished with a traditional hand-rubbed oil. The silver nitride receiver is covered in deep relief hunting scenes, making the metal tough enough to handle brutal freezing rain while still looking like an absolute piece of art. Adding this ultimate workhorse to your collection sets you back right around $3,389. There you have it, the absolute best European over-under shotguns hit in the field in 2026. Whether you are dropping serious cash on an Italian masterpiece or running a stripped-down German utility rig, these are the tools that actually perform when the weather turns nasty and the birds are flying fast. Do not be that guy struggling with a jammed-up piece of plastic in the mud. Make a smart investment and upgrade your gear. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.